Good evening, everybody. My name is Kristen Gonzalez Vega, and this, as always, is AP Physics C, Electricity and Magnetism. We are super excited tonight because Roger and I are joined by a special guest. Roger, do you want to say hello and introduce our guest?
I would love to. Thank you, Kristen. So yeah, I'm Roger Siegel. Welcome back. If it's your first time joining us, getting you ready for that AP Physics C E&M exam. But tonight we have such an opportunity. So YouTube is a phenomenon, if you didn't notice it. And tonight joining us is Kyle Hill, who is an amazing science communicator and YouTuber. If you watch his shows, they'll change your life. It's amazing. I love his stuff.
Oh, come on. That's too much.
Too much. It's good stuff. I like it. So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Kyle.
It is wild. Let me just say thank you so much for having me. It is wild that I am now interfacing directly with, the large organization that put on the very AP tests that I took when I was in high school and that millions of other kids have taken and are taking. It's kind of surreal. It's great. I love engaging with education directly.
Oh, well, great. Well, thanks so much for joining us. And Kristen, you have some way for students to ask questions, right?
Yes, I'm going to share my Twitter handle for you guys to tweet us questions that you have tonight. So if you want, you can send us your questions to @APGVs, and I will be looking at those and try to squeeze some of your questions in because we really want to get, your access to Kyle directly through us. So we're all about learning all about Kyle, but asking the things that you want to know too, and not just us old people. So I'll leave that up for just another second, and then I will take it back down. So it's @APGVs. Okay, so first question we have for you, Kyle. You have.
Well, should we show Kristen? Should we show a little clip first?
Oh,
should we show one of the clips?
Yes, please, Roger.
Okay, all right. We have a clip, and this is, I think, your most recent video that just came up on the facility.
Yeah, so this one was Wednesday.
Okay, so hot off the video editor. Let me share my screen. Okay, and share computer sound. All right, and so let's go on this.
Well, Ari, we've been tracking this thing for weeks and we still don't know what it is.
Have you tried talking to it?
You want to strike up a conversation with that thing, you be my guest. What do you think it wants?
To tell us the answer is 42?
Yeah, a number. Wait, a number. Computation. Aria, I have an idea what this may be.
What?
I think it's a hyper-intelligent super object in outer space. A Jupiter brain.
Can we stop with the 50s sci-fi stuff now?
Yeah, sure.
Now entering the facility.
What is the perfect computer? Well, of course, that depends on your definition of the word perfect. I happen to like mine sentient.
Yo, Tiger King was crazy.
But one definition of perfect might be a machine that can compute the most, the fastest.
All right.
I like how that episode turned out. I'm going to be honest. I really did like how that turned out.
It's pretty topical to come up with the Tiger King reference there, I gotta say.
Well, we can get into the mechanics of this, after we talk about some educational stuff. But one of the advantages of doing what I do is you can be very nimble. So things that are happening that are topical or interesting, if you have your own movie level camera sitting right in front of you, you can pretty much do whatever you want as quick as you want.
Cool. All right. Go ahead, Kristen. I know you have a question.
No, it's so awesome to see. I've had so much fun kind of catching up on all of these. So this channel that you have is fairly new, but you've been doing YouTube videos through the Nerdist and Because Science. And our first question is just to give us a little bit of background about yourself. So specifically, maybe what AP classes did you take in high school, and kind of what were some of the science and math classes you took in college? Because some of the math and things that the computations you do in these videos get really, really involved.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think a lot of you all at home have probably been in a class with someone at some point. It was like, when are we ever going to need calculus? Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, you might make videos and then calculate like the breaking pressure of Thanos' abdomen if Ant-Man were inside it. Anyway, so yeah, I'm a science communicator by trade, but I started off as just a very, very geeky kid. When I went into high school, that's when I started kind of getting this idea that I wanted to do more science and technical stuff. A lot of that was brought on by watching shows like Mythbusters, Bill Nye the Science Guy, and it really struck a chord with me for whatever reason. And I was fortunate to have very supportive parents in that regard too, who would take me to museums and give me dinosaur CD-ROMs. And hey, CD-ROMs, do you know what those are? Anyway, so I went after that. I transitioned to college, and sorry, to answer your question, I took AP English because I always liked writing, and AP Biology, I believe, and maybe AP Physics, I forget. I did well in physics, that's all I know. Yeah, so I took 2 or 3 AP courses, and then I went to Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I did my undergraduate degree in civil and environmental engineering. It's civil engineering with a environmental engineering major. And in that undergrad, if you're looking to go into an engineering undergrad, civil is kind of a all-encompassing kind of field. And it's different than something like petroleum engineering or nuclear engineering. I liked civil because it gave me a wide background, and I wanted to try to address climate change in my career later on. I'm kind of doing it now in a different way by telling people about it. But the kinds of courses you take generally would be, physics, biology, thermodynamics, statics, dynamics, material science, geology, fluid dynamics, a lot of other stuff. It's a lot of credits. It's like 18 credits a semester, of course. It's a lot of hard work. But what I really loved about it, engineering specifically, if you're thinking about going into engineering, I still love me some physics nerds. But what I really liked about it was that it gave me a good general sense of science in the world and how people practice it, and a lot of different scientific concepts and topics rather than hyper focusing down on one thing. And so that I found when I started trying to do science communication stuff and YouTube stuff, and I started out writing. I never knew that I wanted to be on camera until I started doing it. But when I started writing, I found that I seem much smarter than I am. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, by which I mean I know a little bit, thanks to my engineering background, about a lot of science stuff. I can usually come up with something interesting or informative to say about a little bit of everything. I'm not an expert in anything. I can't give you a treatise on quantum mechanics, but I can probably walk you through all of Physics 101, more or less. So I liked engineering specifically because it gave me a wide view of science as a whole. And then after my undergraduate degree, I went into a graduate degree. And this was when my engineering professors were saying, you should come back and do more engineering stuff, do environmental engineering. We will pay your tuition 100%. So you can imagine that's very appealing to me because beyond all the entertainment, all the YouTube stuff, I've always taken school hyper seriously. I sat at the front of every single class. I never messed around. I got, my dad bet me a car if I could get a certain GPA, which was very high, and I won that bet. And then going into, so going into graduate school, I had this dilemma because at the end of senior year of college, I've started trying to do this communication thing. And at that point, I had written some guest articles at Scientific American to the point where I was doing it frequently enough and getting enough views on what I was writing that they decided to bring me on as a regular blogger on the Scientific American website. And to me at the time, that was huge. I was like, wow, I'm a professional now. And so I took the plunge and I didn't go into an engineering master's degree. I went into communication, a master's of arts in communication with a focus on science to hopefully shore up what I saw as potential deficiencies in my knowledge about this thing. So You can be really, really, really smart in physics or engineering or biology or what have you. But if you're not good at conveying that information and discussing that information, whether it be talking in a YouTube video or writing a grant or what have you, or speaking before a committee, if you're not communicating very well, then a lot of that knowledge is either lost or done a disservice to. So I did my master's degree to hopefully get better at communication. And then about a year and a half, sorry, just fixing my my Witcher hair. A year and a half. Yeah, I was Science Thor for a while, but now I think I'm Science Witcher. So, but about a year and a half outside of my master's degree, I was still writing, and I was writing enough and sharing articles on Twitter and stuff that a guy reached out to me who was starring in a new show on a new network. And he's like, "Hey, you don't look terrible. And I like your writing. Do you want to try this new show? Fly Los Angeles, try it out." Hell yeah. So I got in a plane. I started trying to do that. I did some freelancing episodes for this show, which was called Techno on Al Jazeera America when it was a network here. And then a little while after I started doing that, I took the plunge. I moved from suburbs of Wisconsin, and I drove my car and everything I owned. I drove to Los Angeles. And then serendipitously, I started working at Nerdist after meeting the founder at a birthday party for a celebrity. They're not lying. It's who you know out here, and it is annoying. But and I know I sound very LA, but but it does work like that. So it was totally luck and by chance that I had this in. But I've been here ever since for the last 5.5, almost 6 years. I've been making almost a video a week, trying to be as fun and as entertaining and as impactful as I possibly can, using the great education that I got. I think my driving principle, and especially why I would love to hear from any of you students watching, if you're going to tweet, I'd love to answer your questions, because my driving force behind all of this isn't, to get 1 billion views or, to be super famous or anything like that. That would be nice. I'm not going to lie.
To get onto an AP physics channel, that was your goal.
Yeah. No. This is the goal.
Okay.
This is the thing. I was very lucky that I had fantastic teachers growing up at every level, at grade school, from 8th grade science class with Mr. Daginsky to high school AP Bio with Mr. Muse, up through college and graduate school. I always had fantastic teachers. And most kids, maybe many of you have experienced this in one way or another, but most kids don't get an amazing teacher that excites them, that makes them passionate, that drives their curiosity. That's just, not every teacher can be the best teacher in the world. That's just statistics, right? So if I can be in any way, if I can be in any way a good teacher in the way that I had good teachers for those who don't have them, that's what I want to be doing.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. Okay, so I think probably, Kristen, do you want to show the Twitter link again? So yeah, Kristen's going to put up the link if you guys want to tweet any questions.
Let me pull it back up again. And I just also, while I'm doing that, I just want to say, you may have known somebody to get in, but to stay in and be relevant and be as successful as you have takes a whole lot as well. So that says a lot about it.
You really have to, especially in this field, you got to prove your worth for sure.
We wanted to ask you about, because most of the students probably know you from Because Science. We wanted to know about the facility and your new project.
Sure. Yeah. So I did Because Science for 5 years or so. And then after that, I decided that I wanted to kind of try my own hand well, for a long time, I wanted to do something a little bit different with my science communication, in that I wanted to add some kind of difference to it that made it unique. Not just stand in front of some TARP or something like that and just talk about something for 15 minutes. I wanted to take some of the influences that I had been enjoying, especially science fiction, and then craft that into a world where I could have some sort of actual world building, a little bit of narrative thread where it's not just me talking about facts and such. And with the facility, that's what I try to do. So it has characters, it has different areas of this big laboratory, and it's all thought out in my head where it is in space and time, and who the characters are and why they're talking to me, and all that kind of thing. So the facility is really my attempt at doing something a little bit more involved and robust. I've always wanted to, flex the creative muscles. You kind of get into a rut sometimes when, for the last 5 years, the only kind of media I was ingesting is nonfiction, where it is just reading, writing, researching, math, and then in your meantime, you're looking up other science things. So I wanted to take some of the other things that I was enjoying for fun, fiction-wise, and kind of give my own spin to it, let's say.
So are we going to see that female computer? Does she come back a lot? She's your companion, your kind of sidekick?
Yeah, Ari is my companion. We're working on getting a full hologram outlay kind of her that she can appear in real time. But yeah, right now she's my companion sentient computer, voiced by my lovely partner. And it's good. It's nice to have someone to bounce things off of, where in Because Science, it was a different kind of challenge that was also fun, but it was always me talking to myself and interacting with myself, and like having a clone of myself punch myself. It got kind of complicated. But this has its own challenges, and it's interesting to me in that way.
Okay.
Well, speaking of challenges, what has been the biggest challenge that you have faced so far with your new facility channel?
Well, I mean,
besides cameras going out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I see both input feeds. I just can't click start video because it looks like someone disabled it for me or something like that. Anyway, but one of the, I guess, just mechanically, one of the biggest challenges was just going from a larger channel, and then trying to make your own channel and have everything transfer over. And so you want to try to maintain the same audience. You don't want to make anyone mad, oh, I liked it better when you did this thing. So it was, when I wanted to do something on my own, it was kind of assuaging the audience such that I was doing something new, but I wasn't completely alienating my user base, because when push comes to shove, your fan base or user base, however you want to call it, is your direct source of revenue and income and influence and all that stuff. So it's been the hardest trying to get, back on my feet. We did very well at Because Science, and I'm just trying to do something similar in a similar amount of time, hopefully. I know it's not going to happen immediately, but, try my best.
I just can't imagine this breakneck pace of one video per week, though. That to me, it sounds like you don't sleep. I mean, you must not sleep very much. Can you talk a little bit about your creative process and how how a video goes from like an idea to the final part of it?
Yeah, it's I think I'm a glutton for punishment in that way. I've always been a really hard worker, I think, and a perfectionist in my own way. So yeah, I kind of settled on this pace because I was working on Because Science, and that was a job. Like, that was a 9-to-5 job. I wasn't working from home. I was going into an office 9 to 5 with like 60 to 100 other people doing other various things. And so it was my job to produce that content each week. Like, I had to report to someone, basically. So I got into this rhythm of writing very quickly, of researching very quickly, knowing my strengths, knowing my weaknesses. What am I good at? What could I produce a quick video on or not? That was the challenge. And now I've been practicing that enough that I can kind of transition that over, and hopefully continue to put out, 1 to 2 some things a week, because in academia, some of you students will find, as in YouTube, you know, it's kind of publish or perish. You know, if you're not relevant, then you're irrelevant. And that can cause a lot of burnout, and that's down to the individual to try to figure out how to manage your own work-life balance with that. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it is a grind. It's what I do all day, every day.
So how do you, can you tell us a little bit about, like, or take one of the videos and how is it developed? Or, I mean, the idea maybe of like the giant brain, we've heard of hyperintelligence, you know, and I think there was even a Futurama about that one, you know, so this kind of gets a little bit of play in the popular media.
Yeah.
How does that go?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of have a rule where I don't talk about anything that I'm not really interested by or passionate about. And that's because an audience can smell that from a mile away. If you're very dispassionate or you don't really engage with what you're talking about, you can tell, and it makes something less watchable. And I think what I hope comes through in a lot of my videos is that the passion is there. I am genuinely excited about things that I talk about or calculate or share with you if I can. And so first and foremost, it's passion to me. And then it's about, you know, we're getting into the weeds a little bit, but then it is about, okay, well, what is the best presentation style for this kind of topic? How long should it be? Should there be jokes? What kind of jokes? Do I include a little story element for like, should I talk with Ari at this point? Should I do a demonstration? I've been talking about this one topic for a while. I should probably switch up in the next few sentences, or I need to remind the audience again of what we were talking about. I mean, it's all in my head. It would be hard to get it like out on paper as a manifesto, but I do have a pretty rigorous process where, you know, for example, I go through 3 stages of writing a script before I film it. I have a notepad where I'll write down a really bare bones skeleton outline. And then, I wish my video was working. And then I go through a hyper detailed outline, which is I leave out basically all the words I don't need, like thes and us and ands. I do shorthand, like a complete script on one sheet of paper, flowchart with all of the animations, all of the elements that I want in each video. When do I do a joke? When is there a transition? What is the camera doing? Yada, yada, yada. And then once I have that in hand, then I actually type it up on my computer. And what I do that, it sounds kind of, you know, masochistic, but why I do that is when I'm doing all this by myself, I want to give myself as many checks and balances or places where I can say, oh, does this actually work? Is this actually funny? Is this actually interesting? And if you only read it once, you might not catch that, or you might not think of something else, you know, but if you do it 3 times, it just, you know, from my experience, on the 3rd time, you might really crystallize, oh yeah, this is exactly what I want to say and how I want to say it. Because I mean, I have another kind of rule for myself where a lot of the visual language of YouTube is a lot of jump cuts and fast editing and stuff. But to me, if you're a science communicator or a so-called expert, or you're trying to appear as an expert, if you have like 4 jump cuts in a paragraph, to me, that makes it seem like you don't know how to string sentences together, where you were trying to say something technical, but you messed it up 4 or 5 times and then you had to cut it rather than doing it, or you couldn't do it all in one go. And so pretty much there's no jump cuts in the facility. There are transitions between scenes, and there's like doors opening and closing and stuff like that. But every single quote unquote scene is a single unbroken take. And I like doing that for the challenge because I have a huge ego. And I also like doing it because I don't like appearing like I don't know what I'm talking about. That's actually a big fear of mine. It's called imposter syndrome, kids, and you might get it one day.
Okay.
Or you have a sneaking suspicion that everything you've done is terrible. But
Well,
I think that's just part of the process. I mean,
teachers are not immune to that, Kyle. I want to tell you that for sure.
No.
Yeah, and speaking of like how you write your script and get it till you you have it exactly how you want to say it. We do have a Twitter question that is from someone who says they're very interested in pursuing a career in science communication and want to know what your recommendation is for presenting complicated topics in a manner that the general public finds engaging and relevant to them. And really even also kind of that doesn't seem so hard, right? We have that as teachers too, when we have these super complicated topics. How do you get it where it's engaging, but also easy to understand?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really tough question. Well, I think, I think first you want to be, the first thing you want to check is, do you know it yourself well enough? If you don't understand what you're talking about, or you don't feel like you have the concept pretty down, you won't be able to talk about it very well. And a lot of scientists have remarked on this, but physicists like Richard Feynman, he was a Nobel Prize winner. He worked on the atomic bomb. He's a genius. But he said, if you can't teach someone something like about a topic, you don't fully really understand that topic. And so I always try to work with my strengths. And if you're looking to communicate something complicated to an audience, I would say that you probably need to stick to your guns in terms of what you're really passionate about or what you have a background in. I'm less comfortable, talking at length about biology, for example, than I am about physics. So I would start with, make sure you know what you're talking about. The second step is considering your audience. This will be obvious, but it's very different talking to a group of, fourth graders than it is talking to all of you, high schoolers, than it is talking to a bunch of adults, than it is talking to a bunch of adults with kids. Those are all different audiences. And like I said, it sounds obvious. You talk to a kid differently than you talk to an adult. But when you get into the weeds of that, how do you actually change the way you're speaking when the difference is, okay, well, it's your peers, it's people your same age versus people who are 5 years younger or 10 years older. Like, there's not a hard and fast rule for how you talk to, someone who, like your uncle versus like your brother or something, like there's gradations there. So you want to think about who you're talking to, and then you want to speak their language. And I'm not pandering to all of you high schoolers right now where, if this was but I could, is the point. If I was presenting what I'm talking about right now to a general assembly, like an auditorium full of all you high school students, I probably would have made some kind of, hey, I'm older than you joke, millennials, right? Because I want to engage with the audience in a language that they understand. There's nothing that makes science communication harder than not even being on the same wavelength, so to speak, as an audience. So once you know your audience and what they think, what they're interested in, that's when you can start to craft, okay, is this do I sound serious? Do I sound authoritative? Do I sound fun? Do I sound playful? Depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about the pandemic, you can't really make a lot of jokes. It's going to come off weird. But when I want to try to teach someone a scientific concept by talking about, can Wolverine get a tattoo? Oh, then I know, right? Then you can be kind of silly and irreverent because you know the topic and who is going to be watching that kind of video isn't, they're not looking for a lecture at a college. They're just like looking for something fun. So know what you're talking about, know your audience, and then craft what you want to say and what you want to do towards those restrictions. And I think that's when you'll be the most successful. The best science communicators you'll hear today, people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, it's no accident why he's so listenable. He said that he used to practice, in the mirror, and he'd tell his wife, and he'd say, okay, well, I have to go on the news and talk about, astronomy. I want you to give me any astronomical topic, and I'm going to try to give you a fun soundbite answer that's less than 15 seconds long. That's entertaining. He knew his audience, and he tailored the way he was going to speak to them in a specific way to be the most engaging. And that's what the best do. When you don't know your audience and you fall flat, you feel it. You really feel it. Yeah. Like I would feel it if I said on fleek. Yes, I know that's a couple years old. I'm using it as an example of not knowing you.
Okay.
Sometimes that's more fun. I love to say those kinds of things around my students just to see
because
the
they get all
reaction.
embarrassed.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I have a question when Kyle comes back, but it's from my wife. She wants to know about Ender's Game and the gravity, Battle School Gravity. So we'll see if he's an Ender's Game fan. Are you a sci-fi fan, Kristen?
Somewhat, yes. I like we did watch the Avengers stuff, but that made me want to watch some of the other things too. I'm like, great, now I need to go and watch all these movies that like are going to eat up all this time in my life because I need it all to make sense when they pull everything
right.
together.
You need total buy-in to be a fan. I always when I watch the Harry Potter, I always think, God, I would never send my kids to that school. Just doesn't feel safe to me,
Yeah. In the meantime, Roger, let's tell the kids real quick what we're going to do next week. Do you want to remind them real quick what we're doing next week?
Thank you so much. So Monday, ladies and gentlemen, tuning in at the normal time, what's going to happen, please tune in at 6 p.m. because we're going to take about 5 minutes to introduce a problem, and then we're going to pretend it's the old days and you've got a teacher giving you a physics test. So we're going to give you a mock, and we've got 2 problems set up for you on Monday. We've got a 25-minute problem followed by 5-minute upload time.
This just in, I'm back.
Yay! Welcome back, Kyle. So good to see you.
It's like when you call customer when you call tech support, and I was like, "Did you try resetting your computer?
Did you try turning it on and off again?"
And then, so Monday night, we're going to do a live mock. On Tuesday, we're going to go over those questions and get you ready for the exam. Wednesday, we're going to do it again. We're going to do a live mock during our 6 p.m. show. And then Thursday, we're going to go over it. And then Friday is Dance Party Friday. We're going to celebrate our time together and get you guys a good send-off ready for the exam on the following Monday. Okay? Welcome back, Kyle. We missed you.
Heyo, yeah, sorry about that. Hopefully my camera's nice and HD and it's stuttering. Perfect, but you can still hear me. It's worth it.
And we see you, so it is worth it. Okay, so I have a question for my wife. She wants to know, can you do the physics of Ender's Game? Are you familiar with that series? And
yes.
Battle School Gravity. She wants to see Battle School Gravity.
Yeah, Battle School Gravity, this is basically using a microgravity environment to train kids how to move efficiently in 3-dimensional space when they're under zero gravity. So when they would be fighting in 0G, for example. So that seems to me completely plausible, because if you were to use a training system like that, then you would help the kids reorient themselves and their brains to, we have this sense, because we've grown up on Earth, with gravitational acceleration equal to 9.8 meters per second, but all you students know that. You're physics students. It's always pointing down towards the exact center of the Earth, or the average mass center of the Earth. When you're in space, there is no longer a feeling of down, and so you can get very disoriented. And astronauts in the ISS, the International Space Station, go through this, I hear they go through this pretty regularly when they first come to the station, and because there's panels on every single surface, like it wasn't like there's no floors, because they can't, they need all the space they can get up there because it's not that big. So they have trouble reorienting themselves at first, but eventually the brain does kind of get used to working in more of a 3-dimensional sense when it's under microgravity. So if a bunch of genius kids were going to battle in space, then having a chance to reorient their brains to the experience of microgravity seems like a good bet to me.
Okay, sounds like a good one. All right,
and that I just turn it on. That's what the practice is.
I noticed right away you didn't skip a beat. You just said, "Well, yeah, that's how it would work," and then I could see the whole thing start to take shape.
Well, there's a difference between I also had a lot of practice doing live stream sorts of things. And that's the hardest thing that I do for sure. It's hard to be coherent and interesting and fun without any pauses, without any editing. And I kind of pride myself on trying to be as best as I can. Well, try to be good off the cuff. And I think that really helps as a communicator rather than having to go back and say, oh, I got to look that up just a second. That just comes from practice.
Great.
Yeah, or let me let you think about that for a minute.
Yeah, no, I've also gotten pretty good at pivoting. So even if you don't know the answer to a question, what else do you know about that topic that you can say, well, I'm not so sure, but this other thing about this thing you're asking about is pretty cool too. Punting, I guess.
Yeah. Well, then speaking about like topics and microgravity, what is your probably favorite topic within physics or principle or to kind of study or get into?
Hard to say. I mean, probably my favorite intro equation in something like physics is kinetic energy, because it's a very simple equation and a very simple principle that once you understand how energy and motion are related and how the equation works, then you can apply that to a lot of other things. If you want to go like I've done many times before, that science and superheroes route, then you can go for like impact forces and, how much energy does a bullet have in flight and all those sorts of things. I think kinetic energy and its concepts like kinetic energy and work and their interchangeability always seemed more intuitive than other things to me. And I liked applying that because it's really useful when you want to do just silly calculations. There's a lot of explanatory power there where you can get force and acceleration and momentum and time and distance, all of that within kinetic energy and work. So I like those two.
That's a great answer. I wish I had thought of that.
That's something that all of these students know. It's not like you're saying some thing that they're not going to have heard about before. It's like,
well, that's what I'm hoping that.
Yeah.
If you are about to take an AP physics exam and you don't know the kinetic energy equation, you are in trouble.
Yes. Give them that little bit of fear. That's true. They are.
Well, look, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
The test is going to be hard.
Oh yeah.
Make no mistake. It's going to be hard. But I think we were going to get into this, but since I mentioned it, when you take hard tests, I would say, you know you better than anyone else. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you kind of intuitively know in regards to what you're studying, what is harder for you to understand. So when you take a really hard test, be calm, be cool, know what you know, and try to be aware of what you don't, and then focus down on getting the questions that you definitely know you have a handle on exactly right. I know I can knock this question out of the park. I'm going to do this one first. I definitely don't know the answer to this one. I'm going to skip it and I'm going to move on to the next one and come back to that question if I have time. Otherwise, I'm just going to guess. If you're worried about, that's more worried about time. If you're worried about time, it is useful to really narrow in on what your just happenstance strong suit is, and then knock those questions out of the park, because then that's like guaranteed points, right? You're like, well, I know I'm going to do at least this well. And then the other stuff that you knew was kind of, up in the air, you can tackle that with a little bit less anxiety because all the other stuff is already taken care of.
Excellent. All right. Very good. Well, Kristen, I think we probably
I depleted them so much of camera time. I can keep
I do have another Twitter question.
Sure.
There's kind of a few people that have been asking the same thing. They want to go into engineering and they just kind of want to know what is like your biggest tip for going into college and into engineering to be successful. You said you got really good grades. One thing I heard you say was sitting near the front, which I'm really glad you said, because I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
And I think finding a group of friends or a partner in a class right away that you can connect with and switch information with? What else can you tell them about being successful in some of those more difficult classes?
There we go. I switched cameras again, and now there's not going to be any breaks. Look at that. look at all my accoutrement. You pay a couple $1,000s for this thing, and it doesn't even. Anyway, hello, students. I mean, for me, being a look, I'm gonna take a shot in the dark here, and I'm gonna guess that a lot of you are pretty introverted. I bet the statistics bear that out. I am too, extremely. So one thing that you have to look, real talk. One of the things you're going to have to come to grips with is that you are going to be forced into a much more social environment where you are, you need to take care of yourself. There's going to be a lot more people around of all different ages. You're going to be asked, a lot is going to be asked of you, and you need to be ready to kind of step up to the plate and adjust to your new environment. You might be living for a year or two with people you've never met before. That's stressful and that's weird. Don't have any illusions about that. Like, it's going to be a big change in your life. And I think there's no easy way through it. If you're, you have social anxiety or you're a little bit anxious about it, like I am, and like I still am, and like I was, I think this is another case where you should really know your weaknesses, know what stresses you out, or what about studying a certain thing is hard, or when you need to do your homework or whatever. Start making the necessary adjustments in terms of coping mechanisms such that you can succeed the best you think you can. So, for me, like, I know I get distracted by looking at the back of other people's heads in the middle of class. I don't know. I just look at the back of their heads and like, I wonder what's their deal. Like when you're in a waiting room for like a doctor, and like, oh, I wonder what's wrong with them. No, but I get distracted pretty easily. So I intentionally sat at the front of every class so I'd have an unimpeded view of what's going on. I could take notes, not focusing on anyone else. And I had a structure of when I would go, I found a really nice quiet place in the library to go study. I have my little spot. I go there after this class on Wednesdays. That's when I get a lot of my homework done. Stuff like that. If you leave it all up to chance, like, I guess I'll figure it out and not think about it, I think you'll have more stress than you want. And some of this can be mitigated before you even get there, I think. I wish someone would have told me that. Anyway.
And did you struggle in any of your classes? And what did you do? Like, if you did, had a topic that you started doing poorly on, or had a bad quiz, like, what did you do to try to turn that around and do better? Or was it just all, you just easily came to you?
Well, I guess I never really struggled. I was never failing. I was never, my GPA was never bad. I considered myself a pretty good student, but there was absolutely instances where I just didn't get what was being talked about, or I did get a bad grade. And I know if you're an AP, I'm guessing that when you get a bad grade on a test, it devastates you. I know, me too. And so the only way around that, or at least what made me feel better, was make sure you're taking advantage of all the resources available to you if something like that happens. One of the biggest ones, and professors will always say this, is office hours. Not a lot of kids will go to office hours, which is a set number of hours per week where a professor will sit in their office, and whoever comes through the door, they will answer your question or help you with the homework, or, talk through the questions you got wrong on a test. They will do that. And I did office hours all the time. I liked it. I became friends with a lot of my professors, and we just talked and chatted about stuff that was interesting. But even you can't erase a bad test score, but what you can do is make yourself feel more secure that in the future you'll do better. And it always kind of took the edge off a little bit, where I get mad at myself when I get something wrong that I don't understand. If I do understand it and I get it wrong, that's my fault. But if I don't understand it and I get it wrong, then it's just frustrating. So I always tried my best to take advantage of the resources. If I really didn't understand something, you swallow your pride a bit. You're like, okay, I'm going to go talk to the teacher after class. Oh, but your friends are going to the quad to throw a Frisbee around. Do kids still do that? I don't know. But instead of doing that, it will probably save you stress in the long run to just go and talk to your professor or what have you, or your TA or RA even.
Somebody. Reach out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's, especially on college campuses, there's a lot of support mechanisms in place, because you will not, if you get stressed out at college, you will not be the first person that's ever happened to, and you will not be the last person that ever happens to you. And good colleges know that, and there will be support systems where you can find study groups or tutoring or office hours or what have you. Take advantage of those resources. It may feel nerdy or like not worth it in the short term, but right now, your whole life, if my guess on your age range is correct, your whole life has kind of been short term, and it's about to expand into long term. And it's scary. But that shift in thinking, once you accept it and you start thinking of ways to accept it, I think it will make everything easier, because it's not just, oh, I can't believe Ashley didn't ask me to Sadie Hawkins. That sucks. It's going to go from that to like, I need to make a car payment and I have a final on Tuesday and I need to pick up my clothes from home because my mom washed them. You know, like it's going to, your responsibilities are going to expand, as is what's asked of you academically. So take it seriously. And you all are in AP, so I know you're already very smart. Just don't let your smarts get the better of you. Just you got this. You're smart enough to do it. Just make sure you do it in the right way, that you're not tripping over something you don't have to.
Oh,
I think that's great advice. Thank you.
Great advice.
I don't know. Maybe it's not. I would love to be like a high school teacher at some point. I would love to do that. I've always fantasized about like being a sub for a little while.
I think you'd be a great high school teacher.
And just like throwing markers at Kevin in the back who won't shut up.
Yes. Well, we're the same way. I mean, we sit there on our, we have what's called advisory at my school. And it's 30 minutes where the students can go in, and I'm sitting at my desk and I'm wanting the kids to come in and hearing that you talk to your professors and went in there, like they're sitting there waiting for you, like take advantage of those opportunities. Yeah, no, it's unfortunate that a lot of the only thing that I remember them saying about office hours is that nobody's coming. Mm-hmm. Like they will often say like, okay, we had office hour. My engineering professors, because the classes can be kind of small at the upper levels. And so they got kind of familiar with it and with us. And, they come in and be like, okay, the average test score was a D. None of you came into office hours. Whose fault is that? Someone is not understanding something. I am sitting in my office. Do something about it, Right. And I guess my overarching point is that up until now, a lot of your education has been in other people's hands, and it's about to be much more placed in your own. What you're really interested in, what you want to do, what career you might want to go into. You don't have to decide all this now, but you should start thinking about it. Because responsibility is a double-edged sword. If you really succeed, you're awesome. If you really fail, not a whole lot of other people to blame.
Well said. Okay. Well, are we closing it out, Kristen?
Sure. What last minute tips, Kyle, do you have for our students? So they are taking the Physics C exam, which are really all our future engineers. They're really at the upper level. It's the calculus-based exam. Are taking their exam on May 11th in the morning.
Ooh,
it's all online. It's all online at home, as we all know. So what tips do you have our students to kind of hype them up here and wish them luck?
Well, I mean, two things. One is that, you're already going to be studying like crazy, I'm sure. But make sure that you're taking care of the other variables. I'm going to speak your language a little bit. Make sure you're controlling the other variables that are going to make the test environment more conducive to good answers. Sunday night, like this weekend, is probably the worst weekend to party. Sunday night is a bad night to stay up late and binge The Last Dance. Sure, that's a reference. So I mean, take what you're about to do seriously. Prepare for it mentally, but then also physically. You know, you're waking up a couple hours before. You're eating something. You're feeling fresh. I know this sounds silly, but it's really not. I mean, you're going to be taking a lot of tests in college, and you're going to have all this freedom where you could just go out all night or go to a house party or do this, that, or the other thing. And that's up to you, how you want to handle those situations. So take the experience seriously, and then you'll be as prepared as you are. I was talking about, darting around to questions, tackling what you really feel comfortable with, and then going back if you can. I'm not sure about this. Your online. Oh, you can. Okay.
Not this year.
Well, I'd say then
Parts
just
of the question, yes, but
okay. Then I would say just think about your time then and using it really wisely. Do you in this case then do you really want to beat your head against a wall for 10 minutes at the expense of probably still not getting it, and then getting like 5 other questions right that you might time out for? So use your time wisely. And finally, I just want to say that, for other groups of students, I might have something to say here, but for you, if you're in AP Physics, and you are probably, that would tell me statistically, you're probably in a cohort that takes other AP classes. You're a pretty smart, pretty driven kid. And up until this point, you've had a lot of success. There is no reason why you're suddenly going to fall off a cliff with the AP tests. You've gotten here, you've done the classes, you've done the studying, you've gotten the grades. This is just another step towards bigger and better things for you. So I know you're going to stress out no matter what I say, but you've already done a lot of the work. Now you just got to execute. Woo! I just got to execute, baby. You got it.
Right.
You got it. No problem.
And what's going to happen if it goes bad?
Nothing. You'll take it in college. Well, I want to let you know, Kyle, we do have AP Physics C E&M as one of the highest pass rates of any AP course.
Nice.
Not because it's easy, because we only let the smartest kids in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wait, you kids are going to have a fun time figuring out what weed out classes are.
Oh, yeah. Let's not tell them about that yet. Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much, Kyle, for joining us tonight, for speaking so frankly and openly with our students and inspiring them. And thanks for everything you do to inspire people towards science. We're in the same business, but a different delivery.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, I'm not a spiritual person by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think this kind of thing is why I'm here to do stuff. So if I can be of any help in any way to anybody at any time, then it's all worth it. And again, I just want to say thank you for having me. It's wonderful to talk directly to all of you, to all the students, if you're watching, because it's fun to make, videos that go out into the public and blah, blah, blah. But being directly educational and trying to influence the next generation of great thinkers and designers and engineers and doctors and physicists, and that's really, really important to me. So thank you for having me, and good luck. You're going to do fine. Don't worry about it. Don't stay up all night. It don't have to be a 24-hour study set. You'll be fine, probably.
Probably. Thank you so much, Kyle.
Absolutely.